Bill, and I'm glad you're here. Now we're going to start step 1 of putting the Sliding Ladybug robot together. For step 1, we need the negative battery terminal, the battery case, and one of the two outer terminals. Now you notice with the battery case, there are markings plus and minus on the inside and plus and minus on the outside. Step 1 is putting in the negative terminal, so we're working with the end of the battery case that has the minus sign. And what we do is we take this outer terminal, which is kind of an L-shaped piece. It has a narrow leg with a hole in it, and we're going to put that narrow leg through this slot in the end of the battery case. So we just, oops, I dropped it. We take the outer terminal and put that slender leg through the slot, and once it's through the slot, we can reach around and hold that slender leg, and that way with one hand we can hold the terminal and the battery case, and with our other hand we pick up the negative terminal, and it's a sort of a V-shaped part, and it has a wide side and a not so wide side. And we hold that so that the not so wide side is facing toward the inside of the battery case, and we find these slots in the plastic right at the edge there, and we put the wide side into those and push it down, and it has little barbs that hold it in place, and that is now holding this outer terminal in place, and the negative terminal is assembled. So let us check off step 1 as finished. And now step 2 is the other side of the battery case. We're going to put in the positive terminal, and for that we need the battery case, the positive terminal, the terminal cover, this little plastic piece, and the other outer terminal, L-shaped piece. It's identical to the one we just did. Now on this positive end we have a slot just like the one on the negative end, but watch out because there's another slot at the top of the case that holds the terminal cover in place as the last part of what we do. But the rest of it is the same. We take the outer terminal and we put the narrow end with the hole in it through the slot in the battery case, and then we reach around and hold it by that terminal, and then we pick up the positive terminal. Now this piece has a large round bump and a bent edge. And we're going to hold this so that the large round bump is pointing toward the inside of the battery case, and the bent edge is going to be on the top so that it's the part that does not really get put into these slots. And then we fit it into those slots just like on the negative terminal and push it down into place. And everything is held together. And then we take the terminal cover plastic piece, and note that it has a narrow side with a little barb on it, and we're going to push that narrow side down into this open place in the top of the battery case, and the little barb is going to pop into that slot in the top and hold it in place. And now the battery case is all done and ready to go. So we set that aside and we check off step 2. Now, step 3 is attaching the small screw and nut to the flywheel. So we fetch the small screw and the nut and the flywheel. The flywheel has a hub coming out one end, and it has 4 sets of 2 holes. We're going to put this screw through one of the holes closest to the edge of the wheel, and we put it in from the side that does not have the hub. Just slip it through that hole, and then we hold the screw in place, and we take the nut and put it on the end of the screw and turn it until it is starting to screw onto the screw and it holds itself in place. Now, once it's started like that, then we let the nut fall down between these 2 ribs in the plastic of the hub, and those ribs will keep the nut from turning. We hold the nut down into those ribs and take the screwdriver and tighten the screw. Fairly firm, doesn't have to be super tight. And now step 3 is finished. So we check that off. And now we move on to step 4, which is to take the flywheel and attach it to the motor. This shaft on the motor is just a little bit larger than the hole in the flywheel, and so it has to press in, and the plastic has to stretch a little bit, and that's enough to keep the flywheel attached to the motor when we're done. But we have to be careful not to break anything here, because we have to push it fairly hard. So we lay the flywheel down on the work surface, we put the motor shaft at the entrance to that hole, and then, being very careful that everything is lined up straight, we push down on the motor until the motor shaft slips into the flywheel. You might need some help because it has to be pushed pretty hard, and this isn't quite all the way in place. It might be enough, but I'm going to give it another push. You want to push it until the amount of shaft that you can still see is, well, maybe as much as the width of the flywheel. And just being careful not to let anything bend or slip. Push it down, and then it moves okay. And I'm not sure if this is actually far enough, but we're going to find out in our next step when we fit it into the motor cover. But let's check off that we have attached the flywheel to the motor, and now the next thing we do is we put the motor into the motor cover, and after we've done that, we'll know if we pushed on the flywheel enough. You see the motor has 2 flat sides, here and here, and on one flat side the wires are attached. The motor holder has a flat wall down here where these big holes are, and we want to put one flat side of the motor down on that flat side of the motor cover, and it's the side that has the wires that should go down against the plastic, so that when it's in there, these wires are coming out through these little openings in the plastic. And now, holding it here, okay, I can move the flywheel and it moves freely. So I'm pretty sure the flywheel is on enough. And I'm going to check off step 5, that we have the motor in the motor cover. And now we attach this to the body. That's step 6. Now, the body on one side has these 5 circles. That's the top. That's where the stickers are going to go later. We want the bottom. This is where the motor goes. So we lay it down and you see these ribs and holes here. Those just exactly match the motor holder, the motor cover. It has these two tabs and they fit into those. And as one last check to make sure there's enough room for the flywheel to turn, I'm just turning it with my finger here very gently, but I want to be sure that it's free to turn and the nut and screw are not hitting the body, and I think that's good. So we want to take two of the large screws and attach this motor cover and motor to the body. We put a screw through the hole in the motor cover tab into the hole in the body, and then press down and turn the screw just a couple of turns to get it going, and then we put in the other screw on the other side here, and we press down and we get it going. Now, when we're putting these screws into the plastic, the metal screw is actually cutting threads into the plastic. It has to be turned fairly hard, and you have to keep the screwdriver pressed into the screw while you're turning it. You might need to get some help to be able to press hard enough and turn the screw. But we turn it, and when it's all the way in and snug up against the plastic, you can feel it getting stiffer. So you just stop there, and now the motor cover and motor are attached to the body, and that is step 6. In our next video, we will start off with step 7. AstuteKidDotCom